What is up, guys? Welcome back to another GeekaWhat video. In this video, we're going to be building a really awesome $1,200 gaming PC build for 2022. A system where I've really tried to refine the price to performance metrics, pairing Intel's brand new Core i3-12100F with a beautiful 3060 Ti. But the key question in all of this, will it bottleneck? I guess we're going to find out later as we put the system together, boot it up for the first time and test it out in a wide range of the latest AAA titles to see if Intel's new killer budget CPU is really worth a shout when it comes to a build like this. As usual, we're going to kick things off by installing as many of our components as possible into the motherboard, namely the CPU, motherboard itself, RAM, and our NVMe SSD. At the heart of this build is the Asus B660 NAD4. Now this is part of their Prime range. It looks really nice actually with this neutral black and silver aesthetic. It's a budget motherboard though that actually has the features we need for a build like this one. From support for the latest Gen 4 NVMe drives to RAM overclocking with 4 RAM DIMM slots, allowing for great upgrade paths and dual channel memory performance right now. It also crucially has our new socket on that we need for the CPU. And when it comes to the processor, there's a couple of options for this build. And the one I ultimately recommend will be something we talk about later. Either though, the new i3-12100F or the new i5-12400F. Both great CPUs, but which is the better match for our 3060 Ti if we're looking to build a really great value gaming PC build? Now these new CPUs from Intel provide a true step change in performance. They've also changed the socket to update these new line of processors, which opens kind of like this, and then we can very gently drop the CPU into place. Do be careful, as these Intel CPU sockets are delicate, and you don't want to bend any pins or do anything like that. Pop the arm back down and the processor is in. Now one of the new advantages as well of these Intel CPUs, the 12th gen lineup, is the new included stock coolers, which are bloody fantastic. Finally, Intel seem to have caught up just about with AMD when it comes to free included coolers. And this won't do a phenomenal job for those looking for super low temperatures and lots of overclocking headroom. But they will get the job done and don't cost you any more money. Always a win. Now normally they come with pre-applied thermal paste, but for our build today, we need to drop on a dab of our own before clicking the CPU cooler into place. You literally do, you just push down each corner and it clicks. Nice and easy. Plug up your fan header and your CPU, motherboard and cooler are all complete. Next up is your RAM or your memory, and for this build I've gone for two 8GB DIMMs of Corsair's Vengeance RGB Pro SL. It's basically an updated, slightly lower profile version of their famous RGB DIMMs. And we're going to install them today in the 2nd and 4th RAM DIMM slots. We've used this motherboard so many times, it's one of our favourite B660 boards out there to date, so I'm pretty familiar with how to install all of the components in this board because we've used it so many damn times. Finally, there is one more thing left to do with the motherboard, and that is install the M.2 storage. But before we dive into what exactly we've gone for, you've got to ditch the pliers. Ow. You've got to ditch your very large, full-size Phillips head screwdriver. Ow. And you've got to pick yourself up one of these. Now this is a teeny tiny little screwdriver. You don't particularly need any special design, just buy one that's nice and small, as the screws we'll be using here are pretty tiny. And we don't want to thread them, we don't want to ruin them, damage them. This will just make life a bit easier. This one isn't magnetic, but a magnetic one will also help you out and make the job a bit more simple. Now, into the motherboard, we'll be installing our M.2 SSD, Seagate's Barracuda 510. This is a 500GB NVMe drive, and Gen 3 is more than quick enough for what we're looking to achieve, at least with a 3060 Ti. If you are more inclined to have more storage or for faster SSD capacities, then check out something like the Barracuda 520 or 530 or WD Black SN850. For us though, this is going to work well, and we can simply slide it in to our M.2 slot at sort of a 45-degree angle rather than completely straight, push it in, and then secure the drive down. To secure it down, you haven't actually got to add a screw of its own. You just pop the heatsink cover back on, we just removed, secure that into place, and the drive is not going to go anywhere. With the motherboard assembly nicely complete at this stage, we can go ahead and move it into the case. Cooler Master's definition of post-modern elegance, apparently, the TD300 Mesh. Now this case is sort of a spiritual successor, or little brother I should say, to the TD300 Mesh. One of my favourite cases of all time, and I've featured it in top case roundups, I've featured it in loads of builds. I love that case. So to see a Honey I Shrunk the TD500 and made a 300 is great to see. Cooler Master? Maybe. Just a wild idea. TD100 Mesh? Mini ITX? You feeling what I'm feeling? Anyway, this is going to do a great job though for our system today. It is on the cheaper end of the spectrum. You do feel that in the materials and the build quality, but it does have some nice RGB fans, tempered glass, and a good bit of airflow. So we're going to lay it down flat for the next step, installing the motherboard. It's at this stage of the build where we need to install the motherboard onto the case's standoffs. These are small metal posts that stop the bottom of the motherboard from making contact with the metal shell of the case. We need to make sure though they're in the right place. So for this motherboard, we've got 3 holes at the top, 3 along the middle, and 2 at the bottom at different heights. These are what we call our standoff holes, and they need to match up with the standoffs in the case. So let's have a look. 3 at the top, they're always going to be in the right place. 3 along the middle, similar story there, and 2 at the bottom at different heights. Result. What we're going to do then is pop in our metal rear I/O shield to the back of the case, then slide our motherboard in and secure it down through the 3, 6, 7, 8 standoff hole locations. That was resoundingly simple. Nice. With the motherboard in, we can move on to the next and penultimate component. We are flying through the build today, ladies and gents, and that is, of course, the graphics card. Now, this right here is GeekaWhat's Eagle OC 3060 Ti. Now, let me be honest with you. GPU stock and availability is, well, not very good right now, as you all probably know. So any 3060 Ti you can get your hands on at a price you're comfortable with buying it at is what I'd suggest. I have budgeted in this build for more than MSRP for this card, but I'm not a mind reader. I can't see what these are going for in your region. And I also don't want to encourage people to go out and spend money with scalpers on eBay, because that's just not good for anyone in the long run. As GPUs do return to stock though, something which will happen this year, the 3060 Ti is a card I can confidently recommend to basically anyone looking for high frame rate 1080p and some 1440p gaming. And this particular GeekaWhat version, although it's a bit plastic fantastic, does provide an incredible value proposition, as you can read in our written review over at GeekaWhat.com. One thing I don't like about this case is that the rear PCIe covers aren't screw-in, they're snap-off. So once they're gone, they're gone. Which means for our build today, the 2 slots we need to remove are already, well, gone. So we can actually go ahead, push back the clip on the PCIe slot, slide the card into place, and then we can secure it down with a couple of screws once it's in. That will stop the GPU from sagging. And it's quite a light card too, which is always a bonus. The build though, shaping up very nicely indeed. Once that's in, we can move on to the final component. We might be setting a record here for the fastest I've ever built a gaming PC. 22 minutes and counting on our lovely video screen. Now this right here is Cooler Master's MWE 650. 650 watts is a logical amount for the 3060 Ti. Personally, I wouldn't go any less than this. You're just asking for trouble. 650 will also give you some room for upgrades. If you add in loads of hard drives or SSDs, or you add more memory or any of that business, you haven't even got to think about the power supply wattage. Short of building some server with 150 hard drives, this thing is going to cope more than fine. It's also fully modular, which means we only have to plug in the cables we actually need. These include a 24-pin motherboard power connection. That's this long 24-pin, 12 by 2-pin power adapter. We've also then got our dual 6+2-pin PCIe GPU power connection. So we only need one of these actually. We don't need both, but they come sort of tethered together. We also need a SATA power harness to power up any SATA controllers, particularly for the RGB on the fans up front. And one of these bad boys, a 4+4-pin CPU power connector. We're going to pop all of these into the rear cable interface on the power supply, then screw the power supply into the rear of the case. Plug it in the motherboard power connection first up, CPU power connection second, SATA power third, and GPU fourth. And that's all of our power cables nicely complete. And then we can go ahead and boot the PC up for the very first time. I might just whack a cheeky little exhaust fan in the back as well, as that's often a complaint people have with these kind of cases. They keep the heat in a bit too much. Otherwise though, I'll join you in a moment for the performance benchmarks, but first it's time for an epic glam montage where we check out just how good the system looks when it's all powered up. I'll see you in a second, but first, roll that montage.
Hit the ejector seat.
You are the Apex champions.
It's now time to take a look at performance, and we've put the 3060 Ti through its paces well and truly in a wide variety of titles. You can find a summary of all our results on your screen now, where we've tested the card at 1080 and 1440p resolutions. I'm going to take a closer look into some of these titles one by one, starting off with the brand new Battlefield 2042 at 1440p high with DLSS enabled. Here we pulled in over 100 frames per second, 106 FPS to be precise. Strong results then, and the game visually looked great. It was a similarly positive story in COD Vanguard, where at 1440p once again, with DLSS enabled and set to performance, we pulled in 140 FPS on average. All of our frame rate testing was done with both MSI Afterburner's Riva Tuner and Nvidia FrameView. Moving on to Forza Horizon 5 next up at 1080p ultra settings, we pulled in 109 frames per second on average, with 90 and 99th percentiles in the region of 102 and 93. Next up on the list is Halo Infinite. Here at 1080p high, once again, we got just shy of 120 frames per second, giving you more than enough frame rate to saturate those high refresh rate monitors. Following on from that, we also tested out Apex Legends. Here we pulled in 191 frames per second at 1080p high, strong 90 and 99ths once again, and the game visually looked really great. Finally, to wrap things up, we've got Fortnite at 1080p competitive settings. Here we achieved 210 frames per second on average, with 185 and 134 for the 90 and 99th percentiles. And with that, that just about wraps it up for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a big old like rating, get subscribed to see more from us. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.